All right. Hello, how you doing? Here's another tier list video that I guess been working on in secret because I've been watching most of the Superman movies because of the new movie that has just come out and I've seen it now and yep, I want to do a tier list of all the Superman movies because I've really been getting into this character for a while. It's like I haven't read any Superman comics. I've been told how he is in the comics, so I know like okay, this is how he is in the movies. This is what the movies got wrong. This is what they got right and stuff like that. And yep, I've also had a huge shift in my mind on what I prefer for Superman, which I'm really interested to mention. I talked about it in my Letterboxd review for the first movie, but yeah, um, I will. I've had a huge like. I shifted my opinion on. I prefer the old school Superman over the Snyder version, where they take it more seriously and, you know, in Snyder's words, like deconstruct the character. Because initially, if you had asked me which I prefer a couple years ago, I would have said I prefer Snyder just because I like the more serious and dark tone. But now I'm like, I prefer the lighter version, which is the real Superman, to be fair. And I will admit part of that is because that was the version that James Gunn was putting into this new movie. So, yep. Can't think of anything else to say. Let's just get this over with. We have a lot of movies to go through. So, yep. Um, to start this Superman tier list, we of course will begin with the OG movie from 1978, which is an easy S tier. Yeah, this movie is phenomenal. Well, because as I mean, the what's the word influence this movie had on pop culture and cannot be overstated because it was the first superhero movie that ever came out that had a big budget because you had the Adam West Batman movie before that, which was, TV budget, but this one was like, no, we're giving it a movie budget and we're taking these characters a little bit more seriously. Like, okay, what if Superman was in the real world? And they executed it pretty dang well. And you obviously have Christopher Reeve being an awesome Superman, and like he was really iconic, and you have awesome John Williams score. Yeah, it's a classic for a reason. There's so much to love about it. Some of it doesn't hold up. Like some of the effects, look a little rough. Though for the most part, the flying effects do look pretty good. I mean, there's a reason why the tagline for this movie was "You will believe a man can fly." Nowadays, it doesn't really mean anything, but back then, that was pretty uh, novel. That was like a novel concept back then, seeing a person actually fly in a big budget movie and actually making it look convincing and believable. What are flaws? Oh yeah, the ending kind of sucks. With the whole reversing time thing. Like I don't know why. Well, It was just weird. They really did not need to do that, and it's especially weird too because it's like you literally had that bit in the beginning of the movie where Clark runs off and kind of kills his dad. Not okay. Maybe that's the wrong phrasing, but like his dad dies and he's all like all these powers and I couldn't save him. Apparently he did have those powers all along because he can literally reverse time and prevent him from dying. Like, huh, okay. But yeah. Oh, and also Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor is really cool too. He's definitely a little bit more mustache twirly, but he's fun. Yep, it's a classic. No notes there. Well, I had notes, but moving on. Next we have Superman 2, which I will put in A, and it works because Superman 2 is good. It's a good sequel, Clark's like developing his romance with Lois. He gives up his powers. He has to fight General Zod and his minions. Lex Luthor is more of a comedic relief in this one, but Gene Hackman's so good that I don't mind that. And Terrence Stamp was a really good Zod too. And my biggest issue with the movie is whenever I compare it to the Donner cut, because there are definitely some weird things about it, like the fact that Jor-El, played by Marlon Brando, wasn't in this because apparently Marlon Brando was just super expensive and they didn't want to pay him to include his footage. in the theatrical cut of Superman 2, which is why he's not there, and they replaced him with Clark's mom, or Kal-El's mom. And that also explains why the way Superman gets his powers back feels super rushed. Like he just kind of picks up a kryptonite crystal, and then next time we see him, boom, he's got his powers back. Like that felt like we were missing a scene there, which we were. And also Superman kissing Lois, apparently erasing a memory. Like I didn't know that was a power. I don't think it is. So yeah, then we move on. Next, let's talk about the Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, which I prefer over the theatrical cut because, I mean, I will admit, I watched these two versions back to back. I did not realize how much faster the Donner cut moved. Like, you had Clark and Lois in Niagara Falls, and you had Zod going from the moon to the Earth, killing people and stuff. It actually moves a lot faster in the director's cut, which surprised me. But Jor-El's in this version because they were able to get permission to use his footage. That's all well and good. And I love how they have a better explanation for how Superman got his powers back. Because they have the whole thing with Jor-El like giving the last of his life force into Superman to give him his powers back, sacrificing his life essentially. It was actually a really powerful scene. For me, the most powerful scene in any of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. And yeah, still cool seeing more Zod and more comedic Lex Luthor. Flaws, yes. For some reason, they just straight up redo the first movie's ending with Superman turning back time. Like they did the worst part of the first movie, they redid in this. It's like they really felt like why'd you have to do that, guys? Come on. So yeah, those are the first three are good, or first two, kind of. You know what I mean. Then after that, we have some bad movies, starting with Superman 3, which, yep, that was bad. And Christopher Reeve, still good. And there was a decent fight scene where Superman fights Clark Kent. Like, that was all right. But everything else about the movie sucked hard. It was really, really boring. That was the biggest complaint I had. It was boring. And like Lois wasn't there. She was only there for the beginning and end. So you see Clark just hang out with this other girl. Okay, sure. And then Richard Pryor, they had him in the movie, and he apparently was a big comedy guy back in the 80s, and they just had him take over the film. Like they literally, I feel like he was essentially the main character while Superman was a secondary character. It's really weird how they handled that. Like, and he would just go on and on about his comedic bits, and I just never laughed. I never found him funny. And like they literally cut an entire Superman action sequence and instead replaced it with Richard Pryor just describing that action scene. Like, why would you do that? And yeah, it was bad. And somehow it's not as bad as the next movie, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Yep, this movie sucked. It's considered one of the worst comic book movies ever, and I can definitely agree with that. Oh man. It was because it was made by a much cheaper studio, Canon, which they made a lot of movies with a cheap budget, and oh boy, does it show. Because the effects in the other movies haven't looked amazing, but you understand it was a different time. The effects in this one are inexcusable because they really do look cheap. And the plot is dumb. You have Superman and like kind of overstepping his boundaries with interfering with humans by saying, "Okay, I'm gonna grab all the nuclear weapons and I'm just gonna throw them into space." And for some reason, the United Nations is okay with that, which I find super hard to believe. Like, I don't think they would ever do that. Just willingly give away their nuclear weapons. And then, yes, Lex Luthor uses the opportunity to create Nuclear Man, who's a completely original character. And Superman fights him. The fight scenes suck. Like, really suck. They literally have a fight on the moon. And the whole time I was watching that, I was thinking, how is this not cool? Like, a fight on the moon. That sounds cool, but in execution, it wasn't. I don't know how they managed that. And also, we know that they cut 45 minutes from the movie. So it's only like an hour 30 minutes. And oh boy, you can tell because there are so many scenes missing. It really does feel like stuff was you missed out on scenes that would have explained some things better. And surprisingly, we haven't had a director's cut or extended cut so we can actually see those scenes. But to be honest, I don't really care because I don't know how much it would have actually improved the plot. It's because it's bad, and it's really sad that this was Christopher Reeve's last performance as Superman. That makes me even sadder. Like, yeah. And then we have Supergirl, which I actually did not rewatch, but I have seen it once a couple years ago. I don't remember it very well, but I just remember Supergirl being boring. Yeah, I don't. I think I will rewatch it when the new Supergirl movie next year comes out just to see. But yeah, I don't remember it very well. Like I remember the story being really boring and confusing. Most noteworthy thing is that apparently they were gonna have Christopher Reeve cameo in it, but then he was like, "Nope, I'm out." He backed out at the last minute, so good for him. And yeah, that's it. Let's just move on because I didn't even rewatch it. I did rewatch though Superman Returns, which came out 20 years after Superman 4, but it acts as a sequel to the first two movies, ignoring 3 and 4, and I guess Supergirl as well. And it was made in the 2000s, directed by the guy who directed the first two X-Men movies, Bryan Singer, who sucks as a person, but let's not talk about that. And I'm putting it in C. It wasn't terrible. It was just, I wouldn't say it's boring, but it was just kind of watchable. It's a watchable movie, but it didn't really do anything special. Like it really does feel like The Force Awakens for Superman. It redoes a lot of plot details from that first movie. You know, you have Superman coming in, saving Lois Lane in an aircraft. You have Lex Luthor, who wants real estate. He wants to destroy land so he can have his own land. And you have Superman stopping him. You have Lois almost dying. You have Lex Luthor putting kryptonite on Superman, preventing him from stopping him. And then Superman saves the day. And it's like, and you even have this girl that Luthor's in love with who ends up betraying him. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's all from that first movie. Like, it's really unoriginal. There are some original ideas, like the idea is that Superman left Earth for 5 years. And during that time, Lois Lane married Perry White's nephew. And then they had a son. But turns out that son is actually Superman's son. So he has all his powers. That's an interesting idea. I will say that. Problem is, they don't really explore it as well as they should have or could have. Like they just kind of introduced that idea pretty late in the movie, and then they don't really like. I want to see more of Superman's reaction to having a son who has all these powers like he does, but it seems like they were going to explore it in a sequel, which they never made. And also the ending had Superman kind of sacrifice himself by lifting a giant island out, which was made of kryptonite, and then he falls to his supposed death. And they drag out, like, oh no, is Superman dead? Oh no, he died. Like, they drag it out for so dang long. And it's like, you know that Superman's fine, that they're going to reveal that he's still alive. And sure enough, they do. Like it really did not need to be dragged out for so dang long. So yeah, it's a perfectly, again, just watchable movie, but it was meant to reignite the franchise after 20 years, but it just came off as a bland. That's another thing too. The visuals are so freaking dull and bland. I don't know how you do that. How does this movie look worse than a movie that came out 30 years before? I don't know how. And then we have all the DCEU movies where Henry Cavill played Superman. So I mean, let's just start with. I mean, this one isn't a Snyder movie, the theatrical cut of Justice League, so we'll just put it in here. Yeah, it was definitely more watchable than Superman 3, but still bad. And then we'll do the Snyder movies, be all three of them right here. Now, I have a DC Extended Universe tier list already, so you can watch that. But also, they are a little outdated. Again, I've said that I initially preferred Henry Cavill and Snyder's take on Superman because they do take him more seriously. They they take the Dark Knight trilogy route where it's like let's make him more realistic, but also like let's have Superman like question his purpose. Like, should he really does he like what does he owe these people? Does he really want to save them and all? And you see him like Superman is meant to be hopeful and optimistic. In these three movies, he's not because he's supposed to develop into that. And a lot of people didn't like that because they want that Superman right off the bat. And yeah, because I've had a preference now, okay, I prefer the way he's supposed to act. Now my opinion on these movies have sort of soured because I'm like, I feel like now I prefer that version of Superman. Like I really do appreciate these movies for trying something new with Superman, but at the same time, I really feel like I just want, hopeful Superman from the very beginning, and they don't really do that. And also, I guess there's doing the death of Superman at the end of the second movie. Like, it's a little too early to do that, and then bring him back for Justice League. Like, okay, cool. I will say though, the Hans Zimmer music for him was really freaking good. They don't copy John Williams' music. Instead, they Hans Zimmer like creates his own theme, and it's actually pretty dang memorable the way he handled that. Like, it's not Williams, but it's really freaking good. But yeah, that all leads to what you're all waiting for, the newest movie. Now, yeah, okay. Spoiler alert: if you haven't seen this new movie, please, you can stop watching and come back later because I am going to spoil it. So be warned. All right, Superman 2025 by James Gunn, the beginning of a new DC universe. I'm gonna say it. It's my new favorite Superman movie. I kind of hoped it would be, but the fact that it actually was, it kind of surprised me. Because yeah, I loved it. It just David Cornsweet really captured Christopher Reeve, where he was more hopeful, he was more optimistic. He put saving people above all else. Like I love you always have those scenes where he's fighting villains and that giant monster, but he always makes sure like he'll stop for a minute to check the people that are in harm's way, be like, are you guys okay? He literally saves a squirrel at one point and it's like, yeah, sure, why not? He would do that. And Lex Luthor in this one, freaking phenomenal. The best Lex Luthor portrayal in any of these movies because he is a hardcore hater. Like, he hates Superman. The fact that he's basically jealous that Superman has taken so much attention and of the world from the world away from Luthor, and he's like, and he views Superman as not human. Well, because he technically isn't. He's an alien, but he's also like, you can't feel human emotions and stuff. He's very xenophobic, and yep, I just find it really compelling. Nicholas Hoult really nailed that performance, and I also really appreciate they put in other characters like the Justice Gang. You had Guy Gardner's Green Lantern, you had Mr. Terrific and Hawkgirl. They were all pretty cool, but they didn't take away from Superman. Like, they were obviously there to set up their own movies, but I like that they don't. It still feels like a Superman movie, at least to me. It still feels like he's the main character, so that's always nice. And there's also a twist that turns out Jor-El and Krypton in general are rulers, and they actually sent Superman to Earth to rule, which that was definitely a bold move, and I've seen some people are upset about that. Me personally, I don't mind it. I think that is definitely bold, but I think it's unique. It, and it definitely, I really like Superman, like making now questioning, like, oh, is that why I was here? What am I doing now? And then he has that pep talk with his adoptive father, Jonathan, telling him, hey, you make the decisions, not your parents, and all. And I found that really powerful. And for me, what made the movie like really good was you had that war happening across the world, and Superman is in America fighting Luthor's henchmen, and you have those people like they learn that of course Jor-El actually sent Superman to Earth to rule. They know that, and yet because Superman has saved the world many times over the past 3 years, they still call out to him for help, and I found that really powerful. Little just they still held on hope like that he can come in, even if he didn't, since he was still busy. He had to send Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl over there to help, but you know that was still cool. And yep, and I'm just thinking. Also, James Gunn, the fact that he directed this and wrote this, you can definitely see some of that influence because some of that humor he has in his Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad. But I would say he definitely made sure to tone it down just enough where it still feels like a Superman movie. But you still have that awesome James Gunn directing that he's really good at. So, yep, that's the big. I'm really excited for this new DC universe. If every DC universe movie is like this, which that's a bit of a high bar, but if this is like a hint as to what the DC universe is going to be like going forward, then sign me up because, yep, I'm already liking this better than the DC extended universe in general. So, yep, that's all I can think of. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, that'll be it. Peace.